So I prefer recording on my other machine, but this will give you better understanding of how things work in RStudio, because my RStudio here behaves very well. So I'm going to be looking at that Beaver file again, and this is the Beaver script that I created before. So I'm going to crack open that Beaver script and look at it, and I could execute it. So I could just highlight this whole thing and I could execute it. And so there's a problem in that I didn't finish writing the file properly. I need to do something like Beaver is read CSV Beaver. Yeah, it's Beaver. Something like that. Okay, now I can do that. There's other things I did in the other video that I haven't captured in this file yet, and we'll add some of those things later. But the most important things are in there. Okay, like I think I had library RMisc, and then I did something like CI of day temp, and I had the same thing, night temp, like that. Okay, great. So there's probably other things that I forgot, but that's fine. So this is an R script, but I really want to turn this into a document that I can share with people. And so I'm going to take some steps. First of all, I want to show you what tools are out there to help you learn RMarkdown. This is your go-to website, rmarkdown.rstudio.com, and there's a whole tutorial. You do not have to go through the whole thing. So you can hit Get Started, and it'll take you to the lessons, and you should probably watch this little video and read a couple of these things. I'm going to give you some of the high-level basics. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of these things. But just to get you started, what does it look like? And you can go to RStudio Cloud. If you already have Gmail or GitHub, you can just log in, or you can create an account. I think you can create an account. But you ought to have a GitHub account anyway, so you may as well just use it. So you can also just use RStudio Cloud with your GitHub or Gmail accounts. I don't like it very much, but it's okay for these tutorials. It's not bad for the tutorials. And they take a while to load. So maybe I'll come back and show you in a second what it looks like. In the meantime, I want to start converting this into an RMarkdown document. So first I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to adjust my R file. Actually, I don't have to close it down. I forget this is a text editor. I put 3 dashes over here and here. And in between those 2 sets of dashes, I can put things like title, and I'm going to say Beaver Study. Now, what we normally do when we're writing code is we have code that the computer reads, and every so often we put comments that the humans can read. RMarkdown takes an idea from Donald Knuth and says, hey, we have it backwards. We should put the comments for humans as the readable part, and we should put the comments for the computer as the commented out part. Hey, bonus, we can have some comments that are for R code and some different comments for Python code, and so on and so forth. And everything that isn't marked off as code is going to be human readable text. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to mark up, or we are calling it mark down because it's sort of a play on words, because you're saying it's so easy, it's mark down, it's not mark up. But we're going to mark up this document, and we're going to say, hey, I want a new block of code here, and So I put pound plus to indicate that there's a break. And I don't really want to see new table, so I'm going to actually turn that into a comment. I know I just said comments aren't comments, but they are. This, as long as I'm inside a block of R code, I can still use a comment the way I usually do. And this is a good place to put a breakpoint, so I'm going to put pound plus. I'm making these little blocks of code, which RStudio calls chunks. Okay, so these are chunks of code or blocks of code, and honestly, this is kind of silly. I should have put my histogram separate from all my time code. So this thing, I'm going to end up cutting this. Maybe I'll put it up here. There we go. And I can put a chunk here, a chunk here. Let's see, day and night and confidence intervals. Aha, they seem to go together. That seems to go together. All right, so I think I'm happy with this. I'm going to save it. If I hit Control S, it just saves it. Now I'm going to come down here and say library knitter. All right, and then I'm going to do something. Instead of knitting, I'm going to knit later, but right now I'm going to spin. I'm going to spin the wool. The goat's wool gets spun into. And this whole R language I'm still getting used to. They have their own language for everything. For example, knitting is just compiling, but they call it knitting. And you just kind of get used to their new language. It makes it impossible for you to talk to anybody else in the universe who doesn't do R. But spinning is a pre-processing step that we're going to do to turn our R file into an R Markdown file. So let's see, we're going to do spin, what is the name of the file? beaverscript.r. But I don't want it to also knit. So I'm going to turn off the knit flag. Okay, there we go. It's going to create a file. Well, I don't really know why this was a problem. Well, actually, I do know why this is a problem, because this is our Markdown language, not R. So let me just get rid of that now. I'll put it in later. There we go. Now it's happy. So I'm going to actually go and open this now. There's my Beaver script. I'm going to just go ahead and close down my beaverscript.r because I'm done with it for now. At this point, I've decided that I'm done with my research. I'm done with my preliminary results. I'm happy with them. I'm ready to write them up into a formal submission. Now, if you happen to choose the language R and you like working with R Markdown, you don't have to leave R to write your write-up. If you're an undergraduate, or even if you're if you're an undergraduate, you can be completely done in R and don't worry about any other languages. Then my graduate students, you're going to have to crack open some other languages. So, but this is okay. You can do your main write-up this way and do your auxiliary work in another language. You can also write presentation slides this way if you want. You know, it's a really beautiful thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my title in. Beaver Study. And there's other things you can do here too. So I'm going to do Control S to save this, and I'm going to do what's called knit. I'm going to try knit to HTML. If you're going to turn in a document, you're going to probably turn in a Word or PDF document to a professor, but I find that HTML is really easy to look at. So you look at this, and already it starts to look more palatable. It's a sort of a worksheet format where you can see all your code, and then the warnings come out. You know what? Maybe we decided this chi-squared was not a good idea, right? I don't like that chi-squared, so I'm going to deactivate it. But I don't want to deactivate the whole beaver thing. So I want you to notice, how do we start and end a block of R code? These three little back quotes start and end a block of R code, with the curly R being the indicator that it's a piece of R code. So if I want to break off just this beaver thing, I can go like this. I've now created a new break, and I've decided that I don't want to include this one. So I just want to turn this into an inactive piece of code. I might decide to use it later, but for now I've decided it was a pretty bad idea. So I don't want to completely get rid of it, but I don't want to see it anymore. And it won't even execute. So it's gone. You see, in my final markup, this disappears. Okay, so that makes me happy. Now, what about this? I don't want this to show, but I do want it to execute. So what I'm going to do to this next block is I'm going to say, echo equals false. This one too. So I don't think anyone needs to see me read the file. I don't think anyone needs to see me adjust all these crazy time values. My teacher might, but my teacher can see the regular R file. So the actual final clean presentation, I don't need to see this, but I want to say what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this little block of code. And you see this little arrow says run, and then it turns into a red block. Well then, how come it's not? That one was already done. What about this done? Okay, I want to echo this not. There we are. That's what I wanted to see. I want to type underneath here, and so I want to put a comment. So if I put my mouse right here and hit enter, it'll take me to a text block where I can write plain text. I can say plot of beavers temp in Celsius over the time the study was done, starting around 9 a.m. Note the time of day has been extended beyond 24 hours, so the times are continuous. Data was taken until around 2 a.m. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to hit Control S to save, and I'm just going to knit this thing to HTML just to get a sense for what it looks like. Well, there you go. I didn't expect that. I don't know how to put a return in there. Let me see if I can fix that. What if I hit enter? Will that work? Huh. I'll try that. I mean, there's a lot of mysteries to me. I'm still trying to learn how this works. That worked. Okay, so maybe I need an author. I bet there's an author flag. And all these things we're going to learn as we go. I'm going to teach you more. I'm going to learn more. I'm going to try that. Control S to save. I'm going to do a knit to PD. There we go. There we go. It's got my name on it now. It's starting to look like a talk. It's starting to look like a write-up. Little bit by little bit, I'm going to go through each block and decide what order do I want them in, or what am I going to do, right? But it's all based off the data, and it's all reproducible. And you can decide which blocks to execute, and you can decide which blocks you want to execute but hide, which blocks you want to execute and show. So you have all those options, and there's also something you can do called inline, and I want to show you how to do that also. So let's see. If we're in our tutorial, it will tell us that. Oh, I completely forgot I was doing this with you. I'm sorry. So if you're doing these tutorials, what happens is you're at a README file and you just click this little green button and it will launch, it'll show you a preview of the website over here, and it will open up the example that it's talking about in a second window, and then you can just play with it. It's pretty cool. Like, I can just click these buttons to see how this stuff works, and it shows up right in line with what I'm doing. So it's a lot of fun. It's pretty easy. And then you can figure things out. So let me see. I wanted to show you about inline code. So this is useful. I had to look at this a while before I would understand what was really going on. What they're saying is, if I want to calculate something and then give it a variable name, I can stick that number in my text directly. So whenever you say, like here, well, I can't highlight it, R color func, okay? Over here in this block up above, they're picking our color func to be a string that says terrain colors, right? And then they're going to throw that in somewhere else and say base R comes with many functions for generating colors. The code below demonstrates the... Okay, now what is R color func? Well, color func was a variable in my R code, but I'm just doing an inline little teeny piece of R, so it's going to bring this text down. So in this case, I'm only bringing a little piece of text, so it doesn't seem all that exciting. But here's how you could make it more exciting. So let's say you're calculating something, and you want to do a little bit of R code. I bet I could do a little bit of R code right like that. There we go. I'm going to say var equals 4 plus 5 plus 6. And I'm going to execute this, and it's not going to show anything exciting. And then I'm going to say, I just found a sum which is R var, and that's in line. Okay, now I'm going to do Control S, and how am I going to see that? Well, I have to knit that. I'm going to knit to HTML, and it should show up for me. It should tell me like 15 or whatever that sum is. I just found a sum, and oh, you know, but I messed that up. I have to put these back quotes probably. I probably just used the wrong symbol. Maybe it would help if I read the directions. It has to be, yes, it has to be those little back quotes that, you know, RStudio likes them for some reason. So if I just click the knit button, it will automatically knit to HTML because that was the last thing I did. Alright, and maybe I don't want to show var up here. I just want to say I just found this sum. So then I can say echo equals false, Control S, and hit knit. So I'm writing my code, and yet I'm writing my paper all at the same time. So that's how you use inline. You can do bibliographies and all sorts of stuff with this. I don't know if that's going to be necessary for you, but that's all explained in the documentation. So let's say you've got this at a state where you feel it looks like a good write-up. Then what you can do is you can go back here now and say, aha, now I want to knit to a PDF. So again, knit is just compiling, and I'm just going to compile that to a PDF. Now it's going to look like a proper write-up. It doesn't yet because I didn't fix it, but I'm just showing you. Right, so little bit by little bit, it turns into a proper write-up that you could literally hit print, and it would be something that you could hand in as an article. Okay, but it's all based on code. The code never goes away, and if you go and you change the underlying data set, then you just hit knit again, and then you get an updated version of everything. So everything is still tied together, everything's still reproducible, and then when you hand in, again, if it's R, this makes it so easy, because if you're doing a project in R, you're going to tell me where you got your data, you're going to also provide me with the data, you're going to give me your .r file and your .rmd file, and possibly also a PDF. But you don't really need to, because if you're giving me your RMarkdown, you can just give me that, and then I can knit to whatever I want. Okay, so again, this is not necessary. This is an optional unit, but I think you should find it useful. Do you want to say? I don't care about that. Now, let's see how beautiful this thing is. So, where's my RMarkdown? Right here. I can just open this thing up and probably knit it right off the bat, right? I can just say, hey, I want to see this. Knit it. And it should come right back up for me. The end is based off the data. It's just literally reading off the data and recalculating all that stuff. Okay? I'm always hesitant to end a video because I'm afraid I'm going to think of something, but I think that's what I wanted to show you.